Hey everyone, we'll continue our discussion on Pandas series. In this video, I'm going to discuss about an interesting function which is a drop. How exactly we can use a drop in a Pandas and what we can do with it and how to do it. All those things we'll discuss. Okay, very first thing we have to load our data. So I have already uploaded sales.csv. Same data I'm using since the beginning. So first let me load our data. Once you load data, these are the different columns available in data, right? So the function that I'm going to discuss in Pandas today is a drop. Drop plays a very important role whenever you want to remove rows or columns from a data set. Let's say, for example, when you take data set, there will be certain columns which are not really important. It doesn't add meaningful information to your data, or it may not be important, right? Such columns can be dropped. So how to drop such columns or how to drop a rows, I'm going to discuss in this video. So in a pandas, everything starts with a simple syntaxes. If you can remember the syntax, then it's easy for you to write a pandas code. Okay. So first, let me show you how you can drop a single column. Then I'll show you how to drop multiple columns, and then dropping single row and also dropping multiple rows. Okay. Yeah. So first, let me print data.columns because I want to see which column is not really important. So clearly you can see this first column, unnamed, is not really important to us, right? It's an unnecessarily, we have that column in our data, so that column has to be dropped. So now the question is like, how do you drop it? Very simple. First call your data dot, you have to call a drop. So data dot drop, and then you have to mention which column you are dropping. So type it clearly because there is a space after a colon. If you type it without a space, it might give you an error. The best option is always, copy paste. So you don't end up with an error. Okay, you will call your data dot draw, and you should mention a column within a quotes, the column which you are trying to draw. Okay, now the very important thing, we are dropping column, right? But your code will not understand like what should I drop? Is it a row? Is it a column? And we know that by default it always works with our rows. Okay, whenever you want to do any changes with respect to our columns, it's very important to specify access is equal to 1. We learn the same thing in rename as well. Either you have to say columns equals or access equals 1 in our rename. But in our dropping columns, you have to tell explicitly access is equal to 1. Only then your code will understand that, okay, I need to do some changes with respect to a column. Can you see unnamed column got removed? Successfully, we have removed it. So now the question is it a temporary change or a permanent change? Is it a temporary change or permanent change? You want to confirm whether it's a temporary or a permanent? So how do you confirm it? So just call data.columns. If it is still giving you unnamed column, that means it's a temporary change, you see. When I run that code, it was showing and I have removed it, but it's not removed in original data. How do you make it permanent? In order to make it permanent, you just need to add a small changes. What is that? To make a permanent change, as we already know, you just need to use inplace equals to. So inplace equals to is responsible for dropping column permanently. Okay, now let me run. It doesn't give you anything. When you do any permanent change, it doesn't give any result. But if you print data.columns, it is showing you the removed column. I mean, like you don't see the column which we have removed, right? So that means we have successfully removed it. Hope it's clear. Okay. So next important thing, I'll show you how you can drop the multiple column. So this is all about dropping single column that we learned so far. Now what if I need to drop multiple column? Let's say I want to drop. I feel row ID is not really important for us. I want to drop a row ID. And also this postal code. Yeah, even this is not important for my analysis. So anyhow, I just want to drop that column as well. Very simple again. Data.drop. You're dropping multiple columns, right? So if it was a single column, you would have directly written a column name. Since it's a multiple columns, always use a list and try to pass your column names like this. So when it's a multiple columns, you have to pass them using a list. Okay, then again, come on. You have to tell you're doing column transformations using access equals 1. And then it should be permanent change. So I'm going to say in place equals 2. If I run this, obviously it gives me nothing. And if I check data.columns, so you should not be able to see the row ID as well as a postal code. We have successfully removed it. So this is how we drop multiple columns using pandas. I hope it's clear. Simple, right? So similarly, let me show you how you can drop a rows. Okay. So dropping rows is like exactly same. You can see usually we don't do it. Most of the time we work with dropping columns only. Dropping rows doesn't make sense, right? So, but still, if you are excited to know like how to drop a rows, I'm going to show you. Don't worry. But I will do a temporary dropping, not a permanent. Okay. So simple data dot. Just see drop itself. Single row, right? Let's say I want to drop the first row. So clearly, first row label is a 0, comma. Since we are doing row transformations, that means we are doing some changes with rows, you have to mention access is equal to 0. Even without mentioning also it works, because by default, whatever you say, it will understand that, okay, it's related to row. See, the first row got removed. First row got removed. Simple data dot row, your row name. First row name is a 0 and access equals 0 because we are dropping a row. Same way you can drop multiple rows as well. I'm showing temporary changes because usually we don't drop rows. Let's say I want to drop a first row label is 0, second row label is 1, third row label is 2, fourth is 3, fifth is 5. Okay, even without writing access equals 0 also it works. So see, all the first 5 rows starting from 0 to 4th row labels got dropped. By default, your code will understand that, okay, I have to drop rows. But for a columns, it's pretty much important to specify access equals 1. And you can clearly understand it's not a permanent change, it's a temporary change because dropping rows doesn't make sense. It's kind of loss of information. Only we drop the columns which are not really important to us, right? Yeah, so this is all about, dropping columns, dropping rows using pandas. I hope it's simple. Just comment out what you want in our next video. I'll explain the same concept. Thank you. Happy learning.